Start off with a 100 shot, see what it does. The nitrous jet's sticking, or the nitrous solenoid's sticking. If I bypass the fuel pressure safety switch and push on the wide open throttle switch and Austin taps on it, it'll come on. But then the only way you can get... Oh, is he doing E85? But yeah, oh, it don't matter. But yeah, the only way to get it to come on is to tap on it while you're holding it. And that ain't gonna work. We're not gonna be able to tap on it. That ain't gonna work. Yeah, that's not gonna work. It'll flood out the motor before it comes on. So yeah, there's that, guys. So I'm gonna have to cut that open, take that solenoid out, try to fix it. If not, buy another one, or yeah. Then I'll have to make a bracket just to hold the solenoids. I don't like them solenoids encased in there anyway. You can't service them. Well, as you guys saw yesterday, the nitrous solenoid failed on that one. So that proton kit, you have to send those in for servicing because they're encased in that box. But I'm gonna grind that box open and I'm gonna get those out, and I'm gonna leave them out of that. I'll just make my own little brackets or something. I'm gonna see if I can't get that nitrous solenoid working. The only time it would work is if I held it, if I held the wide open throttle switch and bypassed the fuel pressure safety switch, and then which, you know, had the nitrous on, and Austin would beat on the solenoid, or the box that solenoid's in, it would finally go off. But that was the only way we could get it to go off, is while we was beating on it, you know, tapping on it. Once you quit tapping on it and shut it off and then try to do it again, it still wouldn't come back on. But Austin's over here. We got his car in here, and we're doing some stuff to it. We put the oil dipstick tube in there, and I tell you what, to get that oil dipstick tube to work, we had to do some careful bending. You got to bend those really careful, because once they crimp, it puts a hole in them. And if they have a hole in them, they leak. People say, if you got a hole in your oil dipstick tube, it won't leak. Yes, it will leak. I guarantee it'll leak, especially on a boosted application. I mean, now if the hole's way up here, it won't leak, but if it's down there, it will leak, guaranteed. I guarantee it. All right, so he didn't bolt his transmission pan dipstick on, so we jacked the car up. It come loose and a bunch of transmission fluid came out, so we've got to do that. We ran another line for his catch can. He just ran them both to this side. You know, the little fitting in the back of the cover and the little fitting in the front of the cover. There's one of those in the back too. And then the LS cars, I guess they don't have a return line like the LT1 cars do. So he ran a return line, and he got the one that that's the PTFE, which works with the 85, because he is going to switch us to the 85. But yeah, also these cars, I guess the 98, the regulator is underneath the car back by the filter, but 99 to 02, I guess the regulator is in the tank. Was it in the tank, Austin? I don't know much about these cars. I know the 93, 97 is pretty good. But yeah, you have to bypass the regulator in the tank to be able to use the regulator out there. So the blowed up motor that came out of this car, it had a spun bearing. It's got a sloppy stage 2 cam in it. So Austin's going to take it out and see if it's any good, and he's going to put it in his car. Dun 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 dun. But we got to get his car tuned. I'm having a hard time getting his to idle for some reason. I got mine to idle pretty easy. But I've been fighting with his, but we're going to undo the turbo ducting off of it and then see if we can't get it to idle right. I think where the air.
See this right here? I'm just kidding.
Down the road did. I like Ford too. I like them all. The only reason I prefer Chevy, honestly, they're cheaper.
You already break these loose?
I don't know. They're just cheaper to work on, man. Chevy was smart enough to make, you know, all their small block Chevys, all their LS1s, all their LSs, all the small block Chevy. The parts are interchangeable. I mean, you know, the heads, the water pump, the cranking rods in some instances, even the pistons in some instances, if the compression height's the same. I mean, they're all interchangeable on certain. Well, the rotating assembly is only interchangeable on certain things, but some of them are interchangeable. I mean, everything's interchangeable on them. It drove the cost down, and it just makes them cheaper to build. That's why I prefer Chevy.
Very common too.
Plus, you know, they make a lot of power. Ford makes good power, so does Dodge. They all do. I mean, Chevy just does it cheaper. As simple as that. In my opinion. That's my opinion anyway. And Brandon's going to come over here later and we're going to put that motor in. I do got to mow the grass. I done weed eated a little bit, but I ran out of weed eater string. I could have swore I bought some weed eater string and I cannot find it. Plus I'm out of 2-stroke oil. So I got to get some 2-stroke oil. And then so Brandon's going to work on his today. Hopefully we'll get that in. And then hopefully I can fix that nitrous jet. Because the only thing this one needs to race is an alignment. Take it and get an alignment sometime next week. I think I'm going to go race it Friday. And then I need a 2-step and a trans brake button. And then get the nitrous fixed, and that one will be ready to go. Honestly, I think in this weather, 3500 DA is probably one on a 12.9, 13.2 on motor. Way slower than the LT1. Actually, that's bolt-on LT1 territory. Cam only 5.3 runs about what a bolt-on LT1 would run. But that don't matter. I don't care. I mean, this is going to save me money in the long run. If this motor blows up, those motors around here go for $500-600 bucks. $500-600 bucks. That LT1 bottom end in it cost me about $3 grand just the bottom end. So, which, you know, it lasted me 4.5 years. You figure, was that 500? If I blew up one of these every year, 500 a year, which I don't think that's going to happen, but just worst case scenario, 4 years, 500. That would have been about what the bottom end costed in the LT1. And anyway, it's just cheap. This is just going to be a cheaper route, you know. Maybe I'll get the heads ported. I'm definitely going to get an intake. Them LS1 intakes, they ain't that good. A lot of people, some people think they're good, but they're like the worst factory intake there is. Even the truck intakes are better. The Blazer truck intake's definitely better, and the LS6 intake's definitely better. And you can buy a Speedmaster intake, which is what, 300 bucks. They flow about what an LS6 intake does. I should have bought one of those instead of buying that if I'd have known that. That's what I would have done. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked and long-winded here. Brandon comes over here. We're going to take the cam out of that and see if it's okay. I'm sure it is. And then when Brandon comes over, we're going to put the motor in that. So guys, they sell these rods right here that are supposed to go in here and hold the lifters up. I do not trust these things. And you want to know why? Because they're not working. They're not working at all. They're not holding the lifters up. There's a certain size wooden stake you can get in there. Christopher used them when he did his Trans Am, but if your lifter trays are old and wore,
it's got a lot more friction on
it. And you're doing a cam with it in the motor, and this rod doesn't hold them lifters up, they will fall down in your motor and you'll be pulling the motor out. And this ain't holding the lifters up. We can't get the cam out, and even with them in there and turning the cam over, when we had the push rods in, you watch the push rods go up and down.
Yeah, look, you can see it right here. Look, shine the camera down there.
Let me turn some light on.
See that one right side there.
Where?
Look.
Over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right there. See it? See it? See? Look there. It's not holding it at all. It's not holding it at all. They make a wooden rod, and you can put it in there and then spin this real fast, and it'll push the, which is going to kind of hard to spin it real fast, because that wooden rod's going to be holding against the side of the lifter. It don't hold the bottom, it holds the side of it. And the lobe should get it up high enough to where the lifter doesn't, this is the part that the lifter is going to hit when you try to pull the cam out, these journals.
Here's lift over here, I guess.
Let me see.
Two of them stuck up, looks like.
Yeah. But the rods hold the side of the lifter. But
See, that one's, it's up.
if you put the wooden rod that'll hold the side of them real tight, these metal rods, they don't hold them. They don't do nothing, actually. Well, in all reality, maybe they'll catch, there's a little groove in the side of the lifter. Yeah. So it will keep the lifter from falling in your motors, because I can't pull that out. So pull that out. I want to show them what the side of the lifter looks like, if I can get it out. Yeah, see that groove in the side of the lifter? So that goes right in there to keep it from falling down, but it's got to hold it right there. It's got to be able to hold it there, and it's not holding it there. So for it to be able to get, for this lifter part to be able to get past this big fat journal, which there's like 5 of them in there, if I remember correctly, this lifter's got to be high enough to clear that journal, or the cam's not going to come out. And the wooden ones that are real thick that you can barely push in there, they'll hold the lifter, and then you spin the cam, and then it'll hold the lifter up, you know, at the bottom of that groove. The bottom of that groove, that wooden one will, and then you can pull the cam out. But these right here, they're not big enough to push on the side of that, unless we're just using them wrong. No, there's no other way to use them but to stick them in the hole. Yeah, it just doesn't work. Yeah, it'll keep them from falling in your motor, but it won't, if the lifters drop down, you won't be able to get your cam out. But yeah, so the wooden ones are a lot better. Yep, Brandon came over. He's making some progress, man. All he's got to do is put the flex plate on. Now, a lot of people ask about these flex plates. That flat flex plate, that's actually a 4L80E flex plate. The 4L80E and the Turbo 400 share the same bolt pattern when it comes to the torque converter. Now, the one that's but you got to use that adapter when you use it on a 5.3. There's a spacer back there. Now, on the 4L60E flex plate that goes on the 5.3, the LS's, whatever, the concaved one, that one, it doesn't need the spacer on the inside, but it needs the spacer on the outside for the pilot of the converter. And you probably saw that in one of my videos. But and you also, if you have the concaved one, you also need the bolt pattern for a on the flex plate for a Turbo 350 or a Turbo 400, because the 4L60E, they're different than a Turbo 350 and a Turbo 400 converter bolt pattern. But the 4L80E flex plate and the Turbo 400, they share the same bolt pattern. And when I say bolt pattern, I'm talking about where the converter bolts to it up here. But yeah, so all he's got to do is get that tightened up, and then he's got to stab his torque converter in the transmission, making absolutely sure it goes back 3 clicks, and then we can make the converter or the transmission to the motor, and then he'll have to put the converter bolts in later underneath the car. But yeah, he wants the BMR motor mounts. Good thing he did too. I had to talk him into it, because when he took his off, the polyurethane or whatever, the rubber crap that's in them, it was broke. His was broke. So yeah. But now when you put these motor mounts in, they don't like to line up. We put that side in, and then we tried to line this side up, and it didn't line up. So he had to take these 3 bolts out and then Did you loosen these too?
Yep.
And then he loosened these. I told him that's what he had to do. And then you line it up and you bolt it in. Then you let the motor down. Then you tighten all your bolts up. But yeah, he's making good progress. And we got to take the heads and stuff off that one, the lifters, and take the cam out of that one. Make sure the cam's still good in it, which I'm sure it is. And then Austin's going to put that in his car. But yeah, this is what we're doing. I'm mowing grass. They've been doing all the work. I just give pointers every now and then. And we got the grass about mowed. Got a little bit to go. Woohoo! Well, Brandon's got her in. It does help to have two people when you're lowering the body down on the K-member. There's the very front bolt, right behind the front bolt, there's a dowel pin on both sides. You need them dowel pins to hit, and sometimes you got to go forward and back with the K-member, and then sometimes someone's got to push the car this way or that way while you're lowering it to get it just right. We had to push this one this way a little bit, so he pushed on that fender. We lined them up and down it went. As long as you get it close, and that dowel pin, it's beveled, it's top. It's like a it has a little point on it, so as long as that point hits the hole, it'll go down on it. And then you just put the bolts in, which is what he's doing right now. After you get the bolts in, then you can raise the strut tower up into the holes and put the bolts in that. And then that's pretty much it. Jack the transmission up, put the K-member in the transmission, put your shifter linkages on, your transmission lines, all your fuel line stuff, put your brake line back on. Oh, that's something we forgot to do.
What?
It's easier, like when you're lowering it, to line up that steering rack. But I'll show you an easy way. If you drop the steering inside, it pulls it back, and then you can put the steering rack in. But it's usually easier just to line it up when you're lowering it down. But you don't have to do it that way. But yeah, that's it, guys. Just got to button everything up. I'm going to end this video. Y'all like and subscribe. Have a great day.